nonprofits paying for that travel. So with that being said, if we don't have at least 20 attendees for the event, it doesn't make sense to have it in person. So with that being said, in one day, you and I will teach, and I'll take the lead, and it won't be a burden to you. We're going to teach this entire curriculum and help them build a lender compliant loan package. Now, in truth, we can cover a lot of material in one day in 8 hours, but there'll be some remaining homework that needs to be done afterwards. So for example, it's unrealistic to think that we'll be able to completely develop the business plan, but we'll have them set up on Live Plan. We'll be logging into it. We'll be able to start the process. We'll be able to help them with some key areas. But just to set expectations, there'll be a little bit of homework left for them to do after that one-day course. I can tell you without question, without hesitation, that key influencers love this. They love for you and I to come in, teach a 4-week curriculum that is so valuable. We're building the financial literacy of the attendees, and concurrently we're applying the knowledge that they've learned. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with performance fees or capital raises, right? That's why we developed the small business certification to be this way, because no one could push back and say, well, I don't want to pay a 6% performance fee. There is no performance fee with this. What they're paying for is to go through the curriculum that you and I are going to teach together. Again, we're going to charge $396 per attendee. We're going to have at least 20 attendees. You're going to make half. We're going to make half. So you're going to make $4,000 from this one-day event. Now, of course, everything that we know about building a loan package doesn't change. So we're still going to be helping them put together their key person policies. So follow the math. So if we have 20 people paying $396, let's round it to 400 for simple math. So the event itself generated $8,000 of revenue, split 50-50. So you've made $4,000 for that one-day event. And we can be doing these as frequently as you want, but we'll come back to that in a second. Now, we're also going to most likely set up 20 key person policies. You know that that's going to generate on average another $1,000 per participant, another $20,000 of revenue. 20,000 divided 50-50 is what? $10,000. So you're locked in and making at least $4,000 for each of these one-day events, and that's the minimum if we only have minimum attendance. There's a high probability you're going to make another $10,000 within the next 30 days as we go through and get them fully compliant, get their loan package built out. So reasonably, you're going to generate, we'll just round off and say between $10,000 and $20,000 per one-day workshop. I will fly out. The nonprofit will pay my travel costs. You don't have to pay for that. This is golden. This is golden. Now, again, why it's so important is we obviously want to work with key influencers. What we don't want to do normally, and you'll prove me wrong, I know as soon as I say this, but normally you don't want to just say, well, that sounds good. I'll just pick a date and we'll just roll with it. But, well, it's easy to pick a date that works for your schedule and my schedule. And it's pretty easy to get a room to teach this in. But what you're missing is the audience. Just like we had those 2 organizations that just out of the blue approached us within the past 24 hours because they're looking at their first quarter, their January, February, March events, and they're starting to plan in-person events. We want to work with a host. The host will provide the space and the host will provide the audience. They'll promote that this is being offered out. So they'll put the butts in the seats. We may very well want to revenue share with the hosts. That would be further motivation for them. There's 2 ways to do a revenue share with the host off of this in-person one-day small business certification. One of which is you could share part of your money with them. I don't recommend that, but that's the simplest option. Preferably what we would do is we'd put a little bit of a surcharge on it, and 100% of that surcharge would go to the host. So it's kind of like a registration fee, if you will. So for example, you and I know it's $396 for each person to enroll to go through the small business certification. The host may very well elect, and you'd work with them and allow them to decide. They might put $100 registration fee on top of that. So now each participant's paying $496, and the upcharge, if you will, the $100 goes to the host. Because why? Well, they're providing the space, or they should be. They're providing the promotion to fill the seats. Keep in mind, we need a minimum of 20 attendees. And so if we don't have at least 20 attendees, then the people that have registered will pivot over to the online version. If they're on the online version, then the registration fee wouldn't apply, right? You can't justify the chamber or the organization upcharging $100 to cover the logistical and promotional cost if, in fact, the in-person event's not going to happen. But getting 20 people through a host isn't a challenge. Several of you, we've got a big group on the call today, the Zoom, and we've got Anthony, Barry, Beatrice, Bruce, Kwong, David, Derek, Dion, Joseph, Josh, Mark, Robert, Toussaint, Victor, Will, and more as I scroll down. Will Hicks and I, for example, we did an event like this. This is a bit of a hybrid, but it was actually the last event that we did this year in person before the pandemic hit. And he and I went to Chicago and taught this. We had a full room. It was a great experience. And so here's an opportunity for you to coordinate an in-person small business certification class with a host in your community or frankly elsewhere. We'll do a 50-50 revenue split. I'll come out and teach it because I've been teaching this for years. It would put, I think, undue pressure on you to facilitate getting the host and then also say, well, be ready to teach this, because teaching it one-on-one, not as difficult, but when you have a class of 20, 30, 40, 50 people, you've got to really be on your toes. And so we would team up and teach it together, but I would be there. So with that, I'd like to get your questions and your feedback, because those of you that are joint venture incubator partners, this should be part of your plan, in my opinion, for the first quarter of next year of 2021, is now that the marketplace is starting to open up in most parts of the country, maybe not where you're at. And again, we're looking at scheduling these typically 30 to 60 days out. Now, you might stop there and say, well, that's not going to work. I need to generate revenue for the next 30 to 60 days. Well, a couple things. Number one, people will pay when they register, and it's non-refundable. Now, if they can't make the in-person class, we're not going to take their money and leave them with nothing. Then what they would need to do is they would go through the online curriculum. Sick kids, cars breaking down, life happens. So you could have someone that registers that can't make the in-person, that's fine. They don't lose anything. They would go through the online version. My point specifically is, though, we can start setting these up immediately, even though they'll be scheduled most likely in February and March, maybe a little bit in January, but primarily February and March. People will start registering now. They'll start paying now, and that generates revenue to you now. Now, yesterday we talked about the grant that will eliminate your cost of running a joint venture incubator relationship. We will count enrollments in this towards that. So we said we should have a goal of at least 1 a day, 5 a week for your joint venture incubator of clients that we're helping. This will count towards that. So if we set up a workshop together, the small business certification workshop, let's say for the first week of February, theoretically, we started enrolling people. They're going to enroll, they're going to pay, and then that's going to count towards your goal of 5 a week. So that gets you the joint venture incubator license fee for free, generates positive cash flow. It's all good. So let's get to the questions that you have about implementing this. This is a really big deal. We've not been able to do this for about 9 months because of the pandemic. But again, what we're seeing is organizations like churches, chambers, associations, organizations are starting to plan in-person events again in 2021. And so this is an opportunity to schedule this with them. Now, if you approach a prospective host and they don't feel yet comfortable doing it in person, we certainly can do it online. Just keep in mind, when we do it online, we are not going to ask someone to sit in front of their PC and their camera for 8 hours and go through all this. If it's online, it's our current on-demand version online, just like we do now. In person, though, we're able to sit down and knock this out in one day. You should generate between $10,000 and $20,000 for facilitating this. It's outstanding. Okay, so let's start getting to your questions. So if you're going to promote this, thank you, Toussaint, for asking. So first of all, we need to make sure that we're clear. This is available for our joint venture partners. So if you're not yet a joint venture small business incubator, then you wouldn't want to be doing this. If you are a joint venture small business incubator, you definitely should be planning for this for the upcoming quarter, for January, February, March. Secondly, it's going to be your incubator that's approaching the host about this. Now, you can mention you're working in collaboration with IIMFL, and of course, you can share this site, which breaks down what we're going to cover. They can even watch the videos to make sure that they feel warm and fuzzy about the quality of what we're covering, and they can feel good about what the deliverables are. But the bottom line is, you as the joint venture incubator partner, you're going to be introducing this to prospective hosts in your community or elsewhere and getting these set up. So you get their commitment, and we need to get a date set up that works for them, that works for you, and that works for me, because I'm going to be your teacher. I'm going to be the guy coming out and to teach this. After we've done a couple together, if you feel comfortable rolling and doing it on your own, that's perfectly fine. But a number of you, including Robert, have talked about what it'd be really good if we went back to doing the face-to-face trainings like we were doing here in our corporate office. We would rather come to you and do the face-to-face training, and this is going to be the best possible training. Let's go generate $10,000 to $20,000 for you from the one-day event, and it will concurrently serve as kind of on-the-site training. So thank you, Toussaint, for your question. Okay, so this is important. We need to get feedback. So we've got a number of joint venture partners on the line right now. I need to know, does this make sense? Are you ready to go do this? Do you have questions about this? So Barry, you're one of our joint venture incubator partners. Does this make sense? Bruce, you're just about to become one of our joint venture incubator partners, I think later this month. Bruce, does this make sense? Do you see what we're going to do? Are you ready to start those conversations with prospective hosts in your area? Josh, I think you're becoming a joint venture incubator partner this week. So again, do you see how this would work? Do you understand how you get paid, what you would do? Robert, and just responded. Again, Robert, this is great. This will get you and I together for a day or a couple of days and provide great hands-on training, but also it's not costing you money. You don't have to travel here. We'll come to you, we'll implement this, and you make some good income. David, thank you for that. So I know what Toussaint was asking, well, what's the best marketing material to use for this? And so we will be releasing, poor choice of words, we'll be creating a press release that will be editable that you can use to take this to prospective hosts. So that press release is really what you'll want to use, not a flyer. Marketing flyers are fine more at the consumer level, but when you're approaching decision makers of churches, chambers, co-working spaces and such, the press release format is best. And so we'll be creating an editable version of that it'll be a template that you can put in your incubator specific information, and then either hand deliver it or email it, or as you prefer to, distribute it to prospective hosts. And again, remember, if they say, no, we're not ready to do in-person programming yet in the first quarter of 2021, then say, well, great. We can take your folks through this in an online, it's just spread over 4 weeks, or we can come on site. Remember, it's $396 per participant, 50-50 split between your incubator and us. You can give the host the opportunity to add an admin fee, a registration fee, something like that on top of that $396 that would go to them. And but they need to understand that should be transparent. That's the cost that's going towards them providing the room and promotion, and it can generate extra money or profit per se. But if someone came back and said, oh, if I can do this $396 online directly with IIMFL, why did I just pay $496 through the Los Angeles Chamber? Well, because the Los Angeles Chamber is facilitating an in-person class, and to no surprise, there's extra cost involved with implementing an in-person class. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we'll be getting out here by Monday the press release that'll be editable, but what you can be doing between now and then is getting your list together. Okay, here are the churches, the chambers, the organizations that you plan on taking this press release to. And then once the press release is released or ready for you, then obviously you can execute. But this is a good time to plan between now and Monday and create a list. I wouldn't make it a small list. I'd make it a list of 10. I'd have maybe 10 to 20, but we'll just say 10 targeted hosts that you're going to approach with this. And so it'll be your responsibility to approach the host through our training and support. You should be fine with the understanding what we're doing, and most of you have gone through this. And then you'll be collecting the money. So people will register via your incubator. You'll set up a different Eventbrite registration. And so people are going to register and pay through your incubator for this in-person small business certification. So you're going to be collecting $396, $396, $396, $396. And as you know, we split that 50-50. Again, if for some reason the event doesn't hold, not because you back out or I back out, but they only end up with 8 people registered, then most likely we won't do it in person. And so those individuals need to know that it's not refundable. Once they've paid the $396, they're registered. But if as a contingency, we don't have enough people to participate, to hold the event in person, then it'll pivot over to online. Same curriculum, same outcome. All right, so David's asking a question. Well, if we're not collecting a performance fee, how does this kind of conclude? Well, David, what we're doing in this model is pulling the funding portion out. So there is no funding portion. We're doing the financial literacy and the packaging. And then we'll obviously consult with them. We'll put together what's called a capital match to let them know where they're at and where they need to go. And that's part of the deliverables here. And then if they would like our further assistance, then we can plug them in to the back half. The back half then would have no cost to them up front. It would just be the 6% performance fee on the back end. And at that point, we will work with them and help them execute what they've learned to get funding. But if they just want to attend the one-day class and allow us to teach them, build their financial literacy, and build their loan package, and they just want to take it and run with it on their own at that point, that's fine. That's consistent with the offer. Just keep in mind that we're going to be helping them build out their loan package. And so it may be that they would benefit from credit boost. If so, that's extra revenue, 50-50. It may be that they would benefit from a commercial address. Again, that'd be extra revenue, split 50-50. And in almost all cases, they'll be needing the key person policy, which of course is split 50-50. So it's not about us getting a group of people together and upselling them. It's about getting a group of people together and helping them meet the credibility factors necessary to get funding. Okay, so let's go through your list, the list of questions and comments. Robert says it makes sense. Very good. Thank you, Robert. Look forward to working with you shoulder to shoulder in your backyard. Barry gives it a thumbs up. And so not picking on Barry's response specifically, I know you don't have the press release yet, and we'll have that out to you by Monday, but I wouldn't necessarily wait until 2021. I wouldn't necessarily wait until next year, wait until January to start circulating this, because again, what we're seeing is that some of these organizations are saying, okay, I need to start putting my event schedule together, and they may be doing that planning between now and the end of the year. So the sooner that we can get that press release and this proposition to them, the better off we are. Now, again, I know you're waiting on us right now to get the press release template created and ready for use, but get that list together now. And then by next Monday, the week between Christmas and New Year's, you'll be, well, no, the week of Christmas, between now and the end of the year, you should be able to circulate this and get this into people's hands. Thank you, Barry. David says it makes sense. Bruce gives it a thumbs up. Okay, Joseph's asking, so we're doing this specifically with our joint venture incubators, this joint education where we go out, teach an in-person class, we split 50-50. I'll come out and do the teaching for the first couple of events until you're really comfortable and able to do it on your own. But this is a perk of our joint venture incubator partners. If you're not a joint venture incubator partner, we can resolve that easily. And so we've talked about that yesterday, and we've got the grant to eliminate the cost, almost all the cost. Thank you, Joseph, for asking that. And it's so funny, Robert, you're in San Francisco. I'm buying a car in San Francisco that they're shipping me this weekend. So I should have not shipped it and should have came out and saw you and drove it back. I forgot you were in San Francisco. Anthony, I don't understand what your response is there. So we've got a number of you, Victor, Will, and others that haven't responded. So you are joint venture incubator partners. We believe that this is a viable, a profitable, and will be a successful campaign to improve financial literacy and generate adult income for you and your incubator. I just want to get feedback. Does anyone have questions about this proposition? It's really pretty simple. If you want a revenue share with the host, you can do so. That's between you and them. You're going to be approaching the host, getting their commitment. You as a joint venture incubator partner will set up registration on Eventbrite. You're going to collect the money from the participants, which either will be $396 a pop or $396 plus whatever markup that the host wants you to collect. You'll be distributing that, right? You're going to give the host their portion. You're going to obviously keep your portion. You're going to send us our portion. That money will start coming through right away. Once Eventbrite is set up and people start registering, the money's coming through. So you realize it's not like, oh, the events, let's just make it up. The event's February 21st. I'm not going to make any money until February 21st. No, everyone will have already paid before February 21st. We will fill up those slots. People will have paid. And frankly, you don't really have any work to do with the clients because we're going to have them all come to this event and we're going to go through this curriculum together in person. If life happens and they can't show up at the event, they'll never lose their money. We'll pivot them over to the online version. So Anthony says he's in, very good. And this is good. This is good. It works. Will enjoyed the Chicago trip, and I enjoyed the time I spent with him. And I think what you'll see is that this can be a model that you could set up in multiple markets across the country if you want. You know, ultimately, your success in this really takes most of the burden off of you. We've got the curriculum. You've got the teacher. I'll come out and teach it with you. you're getting the same amount of money, the 50-50 split, so it's not costing you anything. The nonprofit's paying for my travel, so you're not even eating that. And it's a great way. I mean, we could do one of these a month, one of these a quarter. We could do one of these a week. Now, at some point, we'll start to reach some bandwidth constraints. And so if you're going to do a whole lot of these after a couple, it would be valuable if you could teach it yourself. But certainly, this is a great way to get your joint venture incubator profitable very quickly and become more well established in the community. All right, so thank you, Will, for that. Victor's traveling, no worries, Victor. Anthony, sorry, still not sure. You sent a shape, not a word. Derek says he wants to get started in February. Fine. Okay. Any questions that we have? We're at the 30-minute point. So let's summarize and then see if there's any other questions. We would like to start scheduling in-person one-day courses with you. You will work with a host. You will secure a date that works for the host, that works for you, that works for us. And I will come out, and you and I together, we're going to teach the attendees this 4-week curriculum. I'm sorry, what is normally a 4-week curriculum? We're going to teach it in one day. So they'll walk away with improved financial literacy and a loan package. You're going to generate from each of these one-day events anywhere reasonably from $10,000 to $20,000. But up front, you know you're going to make a great income because we're charging $396, which is a good deal for each attendee. Minimum of 20 attendees. That's bringing in just shy of $8,000. We split that. You and I split that 50-50. So you know you got at least $4,000 up front even before the event has occurred. That's enough to make if you do that just once a month, that's enough to at least make your incubator profitable. And then of course the additional revenue that is generated from those client relationships as we get them credible just blossoms your profitability. So what do you do next? Put together your list of prospective hosts, churches, chambers, organizations, associations, key influencers. Normally, they need to provide the physical space. If you don't need that from them, that's okay. But normally, you would look to them to provide the space, and then we'll create a marketing piece that they'll push out to their sphere of influence, and it's going to drive them over to your Eventbrite page, and they're going to register. You're going to collect the $396 or with the markup if you're marking it up for the host. You're going to collect that. You're going to distribute the markup if applicable to the host. You're going to keep half, send us half, and we can do this as often as you would like. Any closing questions on this? So my to-do is to get you the press release template so you can start taking this message out to key influencers and prospective hosts. Your to-do is to get your list together. Here's my list of 10 or more prospective hosts that I'm going to approach about this. Questions, comments, concerns before we end today? This is the real deal. We did it a lot in the past. The National Association of Black Women in Construction, they flew me down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Did that early this year before the pandemic hit. Will, who's on the line, we did one in Chicago with a group. We've done many, many, many others. And so this is the real deal. It's valuable. What questions do you have? What's holding you back from having the same excitement that I have? Because this is a great way. Now, again, I know that some entrepreneurs are not interested in sitting in a full day class. And so what do? We keep doing what we're doing, right? We can offer them the Capital Ready Package 3.0. Barry's on the call. He just enrolled a new client last night in Capital Ready 3.0. He collected $2,500 from the client. He kept half, he submitted half. He made $1,000 last night, probably when you were asleep. So, we can keep going with Capital Ready 3.0 and the access to capital with no upfront cost. nothing's changing from our normal programming. I'm just clarifying that it looks like we're ready to get back in the game of in-person education, which was our bread and butter up before the pandemic. All right, well, I think we're off and going. Get your list together. I will get you by Monday the press release that you can use as the tool to approach these prospective hosts, and let's start setting them up. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.